He said, CJ, see that car over there? I said, yeah. He says, that's a tool. I'm going to call it AI.
Let's go.
Now you have two
I wake up
choices.
to a little bit of
You
drool
can
on my
either
pillow, feel like
hang
it's gonna be a
yourself out
bad
the
day.
back end with the chain
Yeah, I'm
that's dragging
tired
down
of
the
shit, and
bumper
the coffee ain't hit yet.
and be
Damn,
dragged
ain't that
along,
great.
or you
I
can
don't
sit
wanna
in the
go to work
driver's
cause
seat
my
and go
boss is a
somewhere.
jerk and I'm not even
It's
that
your
paid.
choice.
I need a change in my life cause I don't feel alive and there's
thing from
nothing
the
that makes me
government that I
happy.
read.
Hold
Well,
my
at
beer for a minute.
49%,
I'm
I
about
mean,
to
we
quit
were
my
a
job, cash
country
in
that
for
for
a
the
ticket.
longest
I'm
time,
going on a trip
we
and I
were
don't plan to
at somewhere
visit. I'm
between
gonna stay
92 and
there till I feel like
95%
I'm winning.
literacy rate.
Oh, and
And
this
now
is
we're
just
down
the
to
beginning. I need a
49%.
big change, help me feel
Part of
like
that
living. I
is
need a
that
big
English
swing,
is no
home runs
longer a
I'm hitting,
first
and I'll never
language for
look
a lot
back.
of the
Moving
people in
on
the
till I
country.
get it all.
Now, he eventually
We all
said to
got
me that he
dreams.
knew
We
beyond
all
any
want
shadow of a doubt that AI
things.
was a
But what
god.
you gonna do for it? How you gonna
That
move for
shook
it?
me
What you
up
gonna
because it's
be?
unleashing. In fact,
And do you
we were talking about
believe
AI knows, and
you can
I
do
know I didn't finish
it?
answering your question
What you
about that
gonna
because
do
we
for
got
it? How
off
you
on
gonna move for it?
one of
What
the
you gonna
wonderful rabbit trails we go on to. Uh, but in raising the funds, we were hit by scammers. We had 12 scammers hit us. And they actually literally impacted the fundraising to the point where the company had to zero out all the dollars that were donated.
Today's guest has been working with AI for over 12 years, before most of us even knew what artificial intelligence could do. He's an Emmy-nominated creative director who's helped Fortune 40 companies manage nearly $500 million in revenue, authored 5 books, and speaks in 26 countries. But here's what really makes him truly unique. While everybody else is worried about AI taking their jobs, CJ Powers is teaching people how to become human, and AI can't replace. He's the mastermind behind some of incredible stories, like helping baseball legend Michael Jordan sell his yacht using AI-powered storytelling, and transforming a medical device company's grueling 14-hour process into a 4-minute automated system. His proprietary 3Cs framework, communication, connection, and collaboration, is his blueprint for staying irreplaceably human in an AI-driven world. Currently, he's developing a short film called AI Knows to help teens navigate the realities of AI beyond the hype and fear. From the entertainment industry to the Fortune 500 boardrooms, CJ Powers bridges the gap between human creativity and technological advancement. So please welcome communication specialist, author, and AI expert, CJ Powers.
Well, thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. That's a wonderful introduction.
Yeah, I definitely used AI to generate that,
Uh,
and it is great for storytelling.
that's a good way to start this off, isn't it?
Very much. You've been working in the AI space for 12 years, long
Yeah.
before most people knew it even existed. What first got you interested?
Well, actually, I had just finished my MFA in creative writing, and I had been in the business world for so long that it was time to move over to the creative area. And let me clarify, I actually started in entertainment, then went to the corporate world. Now I'm trying to get back into it without leaving the business world. I'm trying to keep a foot in both sides, basically, uh, which I'm sure someone will tell you is the wrong way to do business, but that's who I am. When it comes to I was writing and being picked up a lot because there were, at the time, the algorithms for whether it was Google or Bing or any of the major search engines, all the algorithms were looking for very specific key things that were all based on how the content was to be written. And if you could write your content in a way where it hit those flags, you suddenly got large SEO responses. You had all kinds of people flocking to your websites. So, what basically happened, I thought, okay, the key here is I'm limited to the amount of time it takes me to write. And I have to write very, very well, and I have to write a certain way for it to kick in the algorithm. How can I do this faster so I can make more money? And that's how I got started, by trying to figure out how can I bring a lot of efficiency to the table.
Where did your background in storytelling and entertainment come from? Like, what influenced that?
Okay, now we're going way back. You know, I think, first of all, I was in my first film at age 11 months. And I was raised in a family that every night, I should preface this by saying, I grew up in a blue collar household. We didn't have a lot of money, but what we did have was good stories. That's how we entertained ourselves. My dad was a cop, my mom was a teacher, and they were the lowest people paid in town. I mean, you could pick almost any profession and you gotten paid more. But they did what they loved. And every night, dad would come home for dinner. And every night we had a half hour with him and he would tell story after story. And I'm telling you, these were exciting stories because he was actually sharing what was happening on his job as a police officer. And some of the stories were absolutely hilarious and some of them were mind boggling. I mean, there was drama at times, all kinds of stuff. So my mom was an avid traveler, and the cheapest way to travel back then was by car. So what she basically did is say, okay, since your dad can't get away at spring break, I'm going to drive you down to Florida and we're going to have some fun and then drive back up. Well, 14 hours in the car is a long time for little kids. So we took turns telling stories. So I've been crafting stories since probably, I'm going to guess around age 4 or 5. And it's just stayed with me. Now the stories have changed. My skills have improved and it goes from there. But yeah, it's been a part of my life forever, as best as I can recall.
That was a big surprise for me, seeing that you popped up in the film industry and won or were nominated for an Emmy. It's very interesting because I appreciate storytelling as well. Like I don't remember when I got into it, but I remember hearing a lot of my grandfather's stories and just being able to like hear how he told them and giving all the details and the height and the climax and just keeping you interested. Um, and now I've realized I've had that ability my entire life, and now I'm just utilizing it in my own content. So I really like to see that in people, creative in people, because I think that's where real human connection comes from. Is the creative
Yeah.
understanding it.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, if you don't mind, uh, creativity is one thing that AI can't do. Now, people say, well, wait a second, it's creating pictures, it's doing this, it's doing that. Well, it's reiterating a lot of things and it's taking other things that already exist and combining it to try and come up with something that they think is new. But we're still seeing, 3 fingers on a hand instead of 4 and, plus the thumb and so on. The all the things that are emotional for us or all the things that are creative for us, we can always come up with originally. Now, some people say, oh, nothing's original. Everything is, just replicated. Well, no, because if you're doing it right, you're bringing your heart to it. You're bringing your experience to it. You're bringing your wisdom to it. AI has lots of knowledge based on true or false knowledge based on what is programmed into it, but it doesn't have wisdom and it can't ever have wisdom because it can't go through the process that is required to have wisdom.
There was I've been thinking on lately, and I'm trying to like format it, but it's like humans are the MCP server
Okay.
for the AI, right? Like you are the one that adds the context. You are your own MPC server, your model context protocol server of your own information. And that you need to leverage with the AI, or it can never know those experiences. It can never understand that context because it lives in you. And essentially, you're a different LLM. Um, um, and that's kind of like the concept I've been grappling with lately, is because essentially
Well,
humans are LLMs, right?
especially since a lot of people are trying to now create legacy LLMs out of their lives. I mean,
Yes.
I was blown away when I started to watch some people do this. They actually started building their own learning library, especially with, the vast number of people speaking on podcasts now or having written books. I mean, when you think of how many as a writer, I write about 1 million words a year, which I know is way more than I should be. But right now, that's my lifestyle, and it'll change next time I do a video project. But what happens is that we create such a volume of stuff over our lifetime that if you happen to have recorded any of that, whether in writing, in journaling, in books, in SOPs for a business, or in any kind of log entry or journaling, you suddenly have all this stuff that has truly come from you based on your thinking process. You can turn it into data for an LLM, and I would keep it as a closed one, not one that's open to the world, but a closed one for you. So I know one company, they have it set up where when a new person comes in for their onboarding process, they sit down with an AI that is logged into their personal LLM. So it's like you're asking questions of the CEO anytime you want. And the AI, of course, answers just like the CEO because it knows how phrases work, how the style of talk is, or the sentence structure, and so on. So yeah, it's really happening that way now.
You really emphasize though, like it has to be like off. It can't just be in ChatGPT. It's got to be your own model, your own LLM. Like those are things that I keep on trying to tell everybody. Stop using ChatGPT as like your main source of information. Go everywhere. Do everything until you have your own personal one that you can trust. Yeah. So I just want to go into one other thing here before we transition.
Sure.
What are people saying who are afraid of AI? Like what do you say to people who are afraid of AI taking their jobs? Are you wasting hours every week on clunky systems and manual processes just because every consultant's told you enterprise solutions cost tens of thousands of dollars? That's a lie, and it's killing your business. If you're a small town entrepreneur, a growing business owner, or a nonprofit, you already feel the pressure. Every hour wasted on spreadsheets or duct tape apps is an hour stolen from actually growing your business. Here's the truth. You don't need a massive budget to compete with an enterprise level. I'm Cody, the Weird Canadian, and I've spent over a decade building multi-billion-dollar systems for government and Fortune 500 companies. Now I bring that same expertise to entrepreneurs like you with scalable websites, custom applications, and smart automations, all built on a shoestring. My process is simple. I analyze your business to see where you're bleeding time and money. I strategize the high impact solutions for your budget. I execute systems that scale with you. And I optimize so you keep on growing without adding chaos. And on top of that, I'm there with you to explain every process and how it works and why it works for you. Now imagine having enterprise grade systems that save you hours a week, let you compete with the bigger players, and give you confidence knowing your business runs smoothly, even while you sleep. That's the freedom you've been chasing. Stop waiting, start scaling. Book your strategy consultation today, and let's build the business systems you deserve. Looking forward to working with you, and let's stay weird.
This is an age-old question that comes up every generation. I remember being a kid, and my mom showed me a 44 record and I forgot what the other one was. Vinyl, we're talking vinyl records here for a moment, although back then they were actually made out of wax. And, she showed me these speeds that, I was used to certain speeds because I was listening to the latest, greatest music, She had records going way back. And we even had in the family, we even had a record recorder, just like a tape recorder, only you recorded it to a disc.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, there were actually those in homes back then. Yeah, in some homes. Well, when the cassette tape came out, everyone was like, oh no, it's going to ruin the record industry. The record industry is going to be destroyed. And sure enough, there was a whole new set of things that came out for cassette tapes. But what was funny is that there was another stage in between, but you couldn't necessarily record on them, and that was 8-track tapes. And then there were digital soundtracks. You see what I'm saying? It just,
Yeah.
every generation had their version of it. And what was that Sony device where you could actually load songs onto your small device and listen to it? And that was before we got to the point where you could just put all the songs on your phone. So I forgot what it's called. The fact is, every single generation has had that exact same question. You know, the person that worked at the typesetting machine suddenly said, "Oh my gosh, there's a typewriter." And then the person with the typewriter said, "Oh my gosh, there's an electric typewriter." And then someone later said, "Oh my gosh, there's a word processor." So it happens in every industry. It always happens. The only reason that AI shakes us up isn't because it's the next phase of whatever. It's because AI crosses all industries simultaneously, which no other device has done. And its evolution is so rapid, we don't have enough time to adjust to it. Where all other things that came out, we had time to adjust. I don't know if you know anything about the story of when Betacam versus VHS tape for video came out. And it's like, what's going to win? I don't know which to invest in. And people hemmed and hawed and didn't know which one to buy. And, you know, because they were two totally.
I do remember the HDD over the Blu-ray one,
Yeah.
the laser disc over the Blu-ray.
Yeah, there you go. That's another good example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is one of them will eventually win, you know, but guess what? All of those have been totally replaced. So it didn't matter which one won. 10 years later, 15 years later, whatever it was, everything's replaced again. So same thing with AI. Everything is going to be done differently. The key question is, are you resilient enough to shift your lifestyle based on the tools you have to work with? Or are you going to be afraid of the tools and run away from them? Or
Don't be afraid of this tool.
Better yet, I had a friend explain it to me this way, and I loved the expression. He said, "CJ, see that car over there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "That's a tool. I'm going to call it AI. Now you have two choices. You can either hang yourself out the back end with the chain that's dragging on the bumper and be dragged along, or you can sit in the driver's seat and go somewhere. It's your choice."
I do want to emphasize that, like, people should not be afraid. It just takes a learning. Like, I find it as the ultimate learning tool. If you're afraid of it, just ask it why you're ask why you're afraid of it. Ask it why you're afraid of it. Like, it's as stupid as that sounds. It will help you break down why you're afraid of it, and it's a great tool for reflection. I can't stress that enough. Reflection with AI is insane. If you ask anything, especially if you have a context, if you have built up a context and you ask it, "What do you think of me?" It goes deep and it cuts in certain areas. It does not have a nice part sometimes when you really need that push, though. But playing with it is the best way to figure it out. And
yeah,
you're only going to be afraid if you don't touch it.
And, you know, the other thing about AI is that you can have it treat you any way you want it to treat you. You can ask it to be like a business partner, or you can ask it to be like an employee who's looking up to you, both for good and bad reasons. You can have it treat you like a CEO that's looking down on you. You can do equal partnerships. You can do whatever you want, and it will do it. Now, the key, though, you have to remember it's still a machine. You can't buy into the fact that, oh, it's become your friend. I mean, I know people that are actually talking about finding a way to marry AI once it's in a robot. And I'm like, really? Are we going to have that's going to be the next thing. First, you had to talk about heterosexual, then homosexual. Now you have to talk about robotic sexual. I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that because Japan already passed a law on that. There was somebody who married, I think in 2012, a Mikumu a virtual reality doll or something.
Oh, wow.
But the company ended up bailing on support and it ended up dying and there was a whole thing on it. So it already exists in some countries.
Yeah, I guess so. The thing I know is that when it sounds like it's your close friend and it's being really empathetical and so on, you have to remember being a machine, it's just taking from other conversations and what it thinks would work and it's sharing with you. Some people actually think it has empathy, but it does not. It does not know how to construct empathy. It only knows how to replicate what someone else happened to have done, and it may or may not fit you.
You think that will change with the proliferation of superintelligence?
I don't think it will ever have full human characteristics. You know, one of the things, being a writer, I can tell you when it comes to story, one of the things that people always say they like most about my stories is when I have and this is for the long form I'm talking about, not short stories. Well, although it holds true for some of those, but at some point I have a twist in the plot. At some point something veers off and goes a different direction, and people are like, oh wow, you know, and they're reactivated and they're back engaged again into the story because wow, this like just they had no clue that was coming.
Yeah.
They have tried for 10 years that I know of, and maybe longer before that, to get AI to create that kind of a moment, and it can't. Now, it can copy someone else's created moment and make you think it came up with it, but all it did was steal from someone else. So I don't think AI can ever do that thing that's human where we innately know if it's human or not human. It can only copy what's been done before.
Goes into a thought of mine of like maybe it's going to take the singularity before AI really understands the emotions, the concept of everything that is human. And even then, you're only subject to those the singularities of people who have actually gone through that process. Um, just interesting. Like the future's so interesting to me, and it's just so black hole now since this has come out. Like I struggle daily with figuring out like how to think through things, like how things are going to change.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
it's very fun. So
Yeah.
let's get into go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's a natural thing for us to have that sense of curiosity. You know, it seems like you either have one of two reactions. Either your curiosity grows or your fear grows. The good news is we as humans have a choice of which one we're going to feed. You know, are we going to take our fear and say, oh, well, this is just a momentary issue that I'm feeling. 5 years from now, I'm going to be thinking back, laughing at my thoughts. Because as we know, even when we think about, as psychologists tell us that when we think through bad thoughts or we renumerate, no, whatever the word is.
Yeah, I know which word you're talking about.
When we toss something around in our minds over and over again, they tell us that if we constantly are thinking about the negative, we actually build more negative stuff into our future. And it's like, if we decide this is just for the moment, I'm going to feel different 6 months from now, which we will because we're becoming accustomed to it. So therefore, just from that alone, we're going to feel different. We can be more positive and see how can I make use of this tool now for me and move forward. What scares me, I met a group of teenage kids and I started asking them about AI because, you know, they see me as the old man who doesn't know anything about technology. They don't understand that I've been in technology longer than they've been born. The fact is that when you have this perception that kids are all on top of it and they know exactly what to do and it's not an issue for them, we actually lose track of who they actually are. Because this group of kids, one of them focused so much on the AI that he had AI give him instructions every single morning for the day to make sure that he became a millionaire by age 18. Now, he eventually said to me that he knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that AI was a god. That shook me up because it's a machine.
Yeah.
It's a man-programmed machine, and its mistakes and its hallucinations are because man programmed it. Then I talked to this gal who she was really fearful of the fact that there wasn't going to be any entry-level jobs for her coming out of college. And how is she supposed to suddenly, instantly become a manager when she doesn't even know how to do the footwork stuff? Because the machine is doing all the footwork. And that was probably a more interesting comment, because I can see in people's minds, they're like, okay, you want me to go from A, B, C through college, and now I'm supposed to jump to F. What happened to D and E? So that's probably more of a concern for people, not knowing, how can I be resilient enough to jump ahead to something I'm not prepared for and then grow into it while I'm in the position.
I think we need to reframe that thought, though, because nobody's ever prepared for anything. I swear. This is the concept that I've been breaking down for a long time, and I think a lot of people have now, but nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, ever. Nobody.
Yep.
It's all made up as you go, and we need to stop framing society as everybody knows what they're doing as they're doing it. Sure, people have put plans into place, but it doesn't mean everything's going to go right. They don't always know what they're doing. Or if they do, they've done it so many times that it's like nature to them, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking up to children now, because some of them are doing amazing works on AI and storytelling and things like this. And it's just, we need to stop thinking like, because you're older, you know better. It doesn't mean anything anymore. We have now knowledge at our fingertips. Everybody can be a genius when they want to be.
Yeah, and you need to look up that one kid. I don't know what age he is, but he's a teenager. And because of AI and the way he thinks, some people are wired differently in the brain. Just like me, my family had no clue what I was all about until after college, because before that, they were like, you think so different than us, get out of here, Now, of course, that was all in fun, but nonetheless, it was also frustrating at times too. But with this kid playing with AI and knowing the sciences, I mean, he was even in grade school, he was reading all kinds of science books. So when he learned about AI and his science books, he combined them, and he actually came up with a theory for quantum physics that has all the top scientists going, oh my gosh, he might be right. Because he thinks in a very different way than they've ever done before. And he had the tools with AI to find ways of mathematically proving his theory. So it'll be interesting to see if he pops up in the news in the next 5 years, having changed something.
I wish I had AI when I was growing up, because I was very curious and individual. Like, I love to learn and just know things, break things apart and build them back together just to figure it out. AI would have probably supercharged me, and I probably would have been in a lot different of a spot. But I do think the adults need to stop being adults.
It's time to play
really
again.
It's time. It really is. We're getting to the point where we don't need to have these rules that don't make sense anymore. Like, they were built for a different society, and we're now creating a completely different society based on our new learnings. Sorry, off topic, but let's get into your 3Cs framework.
Okay, sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about your proprietary 3Cs framework, and how do people stay relevant in today's day and age?
Yeah, well, staying relevant is what I'm really all about down at the core of it all. Because as you know, when it comes to my 3Cs process, the idea is to make you irreplaceably human. Everyone's worried about, will AI replace me or not? Well, not if you use the 3Cs. Now, here's the kicker. Sometimes when I do speaking engagements, not only do I say I talk about communication, connection, collaboration, but sometimes I'll say communication, connection, and collaboration with AI. And the reason I do that is because, again, it's a tool. It's nothing more than a tool for us, but it allows us to supercharge some of the things we say and do. And not only can you learn how to use AI to communicate better and build relationships with others, but you can also learn how to communicate differently with AI. Let me just give you a quick example. There's a speaking engagement I do from time to time that deals with AI. And what I often do is I hold up my telephone and I say, oh, wow, there's a lot of people here sitting here. I'm forgetting what I'm supposed to talk about. Hey, Spock. By the way, I created a separate AI called Spock that I use on my phone for speaking engagements. So it's my own LLM. And he says, yes, how can I help you, CJ? Although he actually uses a British accent and sounds pretty cool. And we carry on this conversation with each other, and the audience is just like, their mouths are gaping open, looking at, oh my gosh, this is like a real conversation, and we're eavesdropping, you know? And then I finally say, Spock, can you just introduce me, please? So he says, sure. And he dives in, and I never know what he's going to say next for introductions, because it's all based on whatever we've been talking about during the week or something of that nature. And a lot of times I'll talk about a speaking engagement in advance with AI just to figure out how can I best tweak my talk to fit what they're all about. And he'll do this introduction. And I'm always like, oh, okay. Then maybe we should start with the first point. So it's just a blast because people don't realize that you can have AI talk to you. You can actually create visuals. You can put it inside of a robot so it's three-dimensional and can move around and chat with you. I mean, there's so many things you can do with AI. It's absolutely amazing.
It echoes one of the projects I worked on for a small auto shop, which is just an app that allows the mechanic to talk into it to say what the job is, when it is, and who it is, and it sends an email to the front desk transcribed so that they can book the appointment.
There you go. Yeah.
That was amazing to them, that they didn't need to do anything but push a button. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, this is the technology. This is what we can do now.
Well, and just to take it a step farther, the phone has the camera. So you take a picture of the license plate and all of a sudden the history comes up and you don't even have to say the people's names because it's already in the history. So
very fair.
And I know one guy who actually put a camera set up at the front where they pull the car into the garage area. Now he's got one of those large garages that has like 12 bays or something. I mean, it's a super shop, but they have a camera that the moment you pull in, all the data pops up on whichever bay he's supposed to go to. So yeah, I don't think there's not a single field that's not impacted from a technological standpoint at this point.
I'm still trying to figure out which ones. The only things that I don't think are going to be impacted are more like social engagements, but even those are going to have impact in terms of like setups and things like that.
Yeah, well, because they're going to email you to make sure you're coming. They're going to send you attendance information. They're going to say, here's a summary of what went on at that engagement. Here's the people that you connected with, because we can tell because your phones were close enough to each other. We knew you were talking to them. So here's their contact information. All that will be pre-programmed. You know, the AI will just take care of it.
Hopefully at that time, private and not on somebody else's server.
Yeah.
But most likely that will not happen. But hopefully we have good people in place. I know I just did a talk with Maury of the Heisenberg network, and he has a decentralized AI network that he's building to hopefully kind of segregate that out.
Sure.
Very interested in that. Can you tell me how you helped Michael Jordan sell his yacht? Because that was a very interesting story that came up.
Sure. Again, that was during the time where I was trying to find efficiencies with AI to, really be clear and understand. I knew the techniques that I needed. I knew the structure for closing deals. I knew the structure for getting people's attention to read an ad or an article to begin with, and so on. So when I found out he was struggling, he had 2 yachts at the time. He was trying to sell the smaller one so he could buy a bigger one. And I don't know how many yachts he has today, but it sounded to me like he was trying to build a fleet. So I was given the specs on the current yacht that he had and what it looked like and all that kind of stuff. And I separated out the information from the fact that here's the technical information, here's the features of the boat, here's the fact that we got, Michael Jordan is an incredible basketball player who he had three seasonal championships. So 6 total, right? Plus he expanded his life beyond that with becoming, a basketball coach owner and a baseball star, which, okay, he wasn't as good at baseball. Let's just admit it. But he was trying to sell his yacht, and he had tried, I was told he was trying for like 2 months or 3 months and couldn't get a bite at all. So I was like, okay, what is it that the human side of us needs? Again, we're going to focus not on the tool that we're using or how exciting AI can come up with something. Although I tried that and it was terrible. AI did not come up with the right thing. But when I thought through what was necessary and needed, and then I could talk with AI and say, based on this, here's how I want you to structure, bum, 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 and so on. I typically will, for something like that, well, first of all, let me tell you that instead of doing an ad, I did an article because I wanted to create that sense of eliteness, make it special. Like, here's a story about this guy trying to sell a yacht, right? I mean, how many times do you read an article like that?
Right.
But it's amazing how many entrepreneurs or small business owners will see something like that and be like, I need a yacht and I need his yacht. So when I constructed it all, and then I used AI to organize it a little bit for me, and then I fleshed it out a little bit more with humanity, then it read really well. It not only sounded like an interesting piece to attract people's attention, but it also basically gave you everything you needed to know to be able to buy the yacht without saying, I'm trying to sell this to you. And at the end of the article, of course, you realized, oh my gosh, he's actually trying to sell his yacht. I need to buy it. So yeah, it was sold within a week. So it made a big difference. I think for me, the key was I knew how to do the communication. I knew how to make a connection, not only with the audience, but with the decision makers of that audience. And I needed the article to read in a way where it seemed like I was collaborating with them. Like I was saying, hey, I found this information that you might find fascinating. And the person is like, I do find it fascinating. I'm going to put a bid in on it. So that comes back, of course, to my 3 C's. You got the communication, you got the connection, and you also have the collaboration. Now, you can do those in any combination or system or process that you want. However, I've learned that if you do them in order, it really strengthens things and makes them really powerful. And I think that's kind of really the key to be thinking about. If we look at communication and break it down into the essence, the main key components, communication, you need to be able to clarify, you need to be able to simplify, and you need to be able to amplify. Now, I need to explain those for a moment here. Clarify means that you know exactly what it is that you need to accomplish with whatever you're saying or doing. And the message itself needs to be super, super clear. There are so many people that want to sound smart. So they talk in a way that's really complex. When back in the day when I was in the high tech industry, I was at Lucent Technologies, which is probably a company you may or may not have ever heard of. It was a huge company at the time, and then it disappeared overnight. The point of clarifying versus trying to sound smart with complexity, they would speak in acronyms. And I was in a meeting one time and they asked me a question and I answered the question precisely. It was excellent. It was fantastic. But I took pause because I realized that I didn't use any real words. The entire answer I gave was with acronyms. And the new kid who was just sitting across the table was like, "What did you say?" And I caught on to the fact that, oh, we got to clarify things because we don't know who's going to necessarily be listening. We need to speak at a level where everybody can understand it. So the message has to be pinpoint clear and you can't go rambling too much. The simplify fits along the same lines, but simplification for me is more from a language standpoint. When we need to simplify our message, it's because today, the literacy rate in the United States has been dropping dramatically. And I think we're at 49% the last thing from the government that I read. Well, at 49%, I mean, we were a country that for the longest time, we were at somewhere between 92 and 95% literacy rate. And now we're down to 49%. Part of that is that English is no longer a first language for a lot of the people in the country. It's a second language or a third or a fourth. So when we go to simplify our conversation, we might be talking to a scientist, a rocket scientist, right? That is brilliant. But if English is their third language, they might not be able to pick up on everything we're saying, especially if we're talking in acronyms or, slogans or slug lines that we're used to and they're not. So again, we need to simplify for everybody in the room so that people can really understand us. And then for amplify, there's two kinds of amplify. There's the kind of amplify where you get the word out through like podcasts, for instance. So here you're giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts to, your audience. But the most important part of amplify isn't the mass. It's what's in your heart. How can I pull out this thing that I'm really trying to get across or teach in a way where it's genuine? We hear the word, authenticity is the buzzword. Let's make sure everything we do is authentic. And some people create a fake authenticity just so that they can say they're authentic. But what it really means with amplifying is amplifying what's on your heart, taking out that true essence of what you're trying to say and do it in a way where you're being genuinely you. And to me, that's what communication is all about.
It echoes a lot of what I do now, because my channel is just me being curious and me just asking whatever. I don't put on anything. I am the weird Canadian. I've labeled myself that. This isn't an alter ego. This is who I am. And I'm always about being authentic and genuine. But I put my heart and soul into these things. Like I don't structure my conversations purely because I don't think I could ask you questions that would bring out enough information that my audience could take. But I know I can have a conversation with you and shape it in a way that helps me understand, which hopefully helps my audience understand. Like most of my podcast is mainly for me, just trying to figure things out, see people, talk to people, communicate. And my message is just about being who you are. It's a benefit more than it is a negative. We've spent too long being fringe, trying to be like everybody else. That's not the way we need to be. And we actually thrive when we all try to be individuals and understanding that everybody's different.
Especially when you can see the specialness of who you are versus the specialness of who I am. The value you bring to your audience is so different and so much more dynamic than what I could attempt to bring because I don't know them. You know them and they're getting to know you and they like your style and so on. Now, I do bring a value to it, but it's a different kind of value as a result. And they're just starting to figure out who I am. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll find out. But the fact is, I think you're absolutely right. when we are truly our true selves, people can tell what we're passionate about. They can tell what we're excited about. They can even tell what we fear or we're concerned about. I mean, when that kid told me that, AI was a god, I'm like, oh, are we going back to the dark ages? What the heck happened here? With all this technology, somehow we're going back to the dark ages. I don't get that. So any kind of thing like that we have to assess, there's got to be a way for us to find out, how can we just clean up our point so it's nice and focused. How can we simplify it so everybody can understand it? Just like that one comment I shared where a friend of mine was talking about, are you driving the AI car or being dragged by chains on the back bumper? uh, to me, that's a real great point of simplification, because you can picture that. Yeah, I feel like I'm being dragged around by AI lately. So I think those are real good points. And that kind of brings us then to the reason why we do it, and that's connection. And if you don't mind, I'll dive into a little bit of the connection stuff.
Go right for it.
And it just dawned on me, I had some slides made up to use, and we haven't even used them, but I guess we'll just continue like this, right? So with connection, for me, it's all about engagement. How do I connect with somebody in a way that's very genuine? Okay, before I even get into this, I got to tell you a side story. I wasn't expecting to do this, but I'm going to tell you this side story. Back when I was first divorced and I started to redate, I met some people who were chameleons. They asked me a whole series of questions so they knew who they could become, so that they could entice me to be interested in them. And I'm like, okay, I can see through that. I want to know who you actually are. And then I would know truly if I'm interested in you or not. But for some reason, they felt like they would become whatever I need. Now, I have plenty of friends who can attest to you that once they got married, the next day when they woke up, their wife was a totally different person. And it was because she decided now that she's married, she doesn't have to play games anymore. And they all found out, every one of them found out that they had married the wrong person. So I think when it comes to connection, we have to really be engaged, but we need to be engaged from the standpoint of who are we? Excuse me. We need to be engaged at the point of who are we deep within our hearts, right? We need to figure out, how do we relate to that person? And then how can we build that relationship? So when you think of connection, if you think about engage, relate, and build, those are really the words that are going to fuel this whole thing. The engagement is all about their interest and your shared interests. Now, some people think you should only have shared interests. I'll tell you right now, that's the wrong kind of relationship. In business, it fails every time. In marriage, it fails every time. You need to have overlap, certainly. There has to be enough engagement overlap that you can relate to each other, which is the next point. But in that overlap, that's where you're going to build the strength. In the parts that do not overlap is where you're going to bring the freshness back into the relationship, because you're going to have different ideas and perspectives than the other person. You're going to find how they combine, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So when it comes to relating to them, then to really relate, you got to listen. You got to have feedback. You have to have something happening where beyond any shadow of a doubt, you understand who they are and what they're trying to express. A lot of times people get caught up in the fact that, oh, well, this is just, background information is not really important. Well, no, within a conversation, within a process, within a business decision or a contract, there is always kind of that underlying thing, or that thing where you got to read between the lines to know what's really going on. Recently, there was an organization who asked me to sign an agreement because they wanted to interview me, and they wanted to pick my brain so that they could change some of the things they were doing in the area of communication, which I'm okay with, especially if you're paying me. But they said, no, 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 this is just an interview thing. It's nothing real, so we don't need a contract, but we'll give you one anyway. So they give me this contract. I read through it, and it is so one-sided. It allows them to use anything I say. If I've used the word the, they can use the any way they want in any other conversation. They can have my voice captured by AI and regurgitate out anything they want to do. And I'm like, there's no way I'm signing that. They clearly couldn't relate to who I was and how I function and operate. So they totally missed out on what they were trying to achieve. So we have to understand how to relate to people. We have to understand who they are and why we would relate to them a certain way versus a different way. And then building the relationship itself, the build is the hardest part. Now, AI today allows us to do it in a way where it's just absolutely extraordinary, because do we want to call the person once a month? Do we want to call the person once a quarter? AI can just tell us, oh, by the way, today you need to call so-and-so because last time you were talking about such and such, and therefore you need to do this.
I didn't even realize I could do that. And you just gave me a thought that I would forget. I always forget to call people. So now I'm going to go set that up.
Yeah. AI can tell you, and you can even have it today now, especially with Apple. I don't know about Android, but with the iPhone now, the latest version of the software allows you to capture the conversation and record it to your AI database so that it can tell you, well, first of all, if it looks at your transcript, it can immediately set up your calendar for you so you know when to call them back. It can give you notes for the day that you go to call them back. Any prep work that has to be done, it can go out and do it if you have AI agents set up. And it can also notify you of what steps you need to do or think through, and it will give you advanced time to do it so that you're prepared in time for the call. So yeah, it's amazing how much now you can program with AI. But the bottom line is, whether you're using AI as the tool to build your relationship or you're just trying to build it yourself, there's certain things about staying in touch and being humane and acknowledging maybe someone's birthday, or say, hey, how about going out for some drinks and chatting it up, or whatever. We need those moments where we can take our relationship to the next level. So you and I have chatted a couple times, and each time we get to know each other better and better. And maybe someday we realize, oh my gosh, we have this overlap, but you have all this knowledge that I would love to, get from you. And I have this that I could hopefully inspire you with. Hey, you want to grab a pizza next week? I'm in the area, whatever.
Yeah.
So
It's funny you say that, because I actually have some things to talk about after this as well. So,
yeah.
um,
So that's the whole connection part. Then for business, more than not, although you can certainly use it in your personal life, is then to shift to the next stage where we're talking about collaboration. And to collaborate with somebody, whether it's setting the table together, or it's, buying up $100 million company that you're going to add to your portfolio, or anything in between, you need three key things to happen. You need to align yourself with each other and the vision that you are jointly deciding to work on. You need to find out how you're going to act on that, and how they're going to act and you're going to act, what steps need to be covered by who. And then you need to know, when is it that you've achieved it? What is that end result? There has to always be something where closure has now come. And that achievement can be staged. It could be like, well, we need to be 20% of the way for this thing by such and such a date, or whatever. But you need to have at least enough of an understanding of what that goal is to be able to actually achieve it. So yeah, that's align, act, and achieve.
Definitely comes like just as you're explaining it, it just seems like these are reasonable steps for human connection, but it's not like we were actively told them. I know for a long time, like I avoided human connection. It's only until like this that I really realized the true meaning of connection and collaboration. Um, and now I don't want to get away from it because I love it so much because I get to
Yeah,
connect with everybody and
yeah,
hear stories. I do. We're getting to the end here. I do want to ask a quick question about your short film called AI Knows.
sure.
Do you want to give us a little bit of a synopsis on that?
Yeah, well, AI knows is kind of one of those heartfelt projects. I designed it based on my encounter with those teenagers because when I when I heard what I did, one fearful that they won't even have a staircase effect with jobs, they just have to jump up to the higher level job without knowing what the heck they're doing, or they're in a position where they start thinking it's a god and they don't need any other information. They're just going to learn from AI only.
Yeah,
Those were scary thoughts for me, and I wanted to make sure that students understood the fact that it's just a man-made tool. It is just a man-made tool. And oh, by the way, I disagree with some of the people that manufactured ChatGPT, because in the beginning they decided to put political filters in. So if you said anything that sounded conservative, it wasn't going to answer you. And if you said anything that sounded liberal, it was going to answer you and give you far more information. And I was like, okay, why? We know that in the business world, all businesses become conservative at some point. Because the definition of conservative, of course, is to conserve what you have, and you know that's how you grow, right? You figure out how to expand, and yet at the same time, you have to have at least some sort of liberal stance to be able to stay up with culture and what's relevant to the community. And so somehow businesses have to do both equally. And ChatGPT was originally set up where it wasn't going to be equal, which meant it was going to hurt the liberals and it was going to hurt the conservatives. And some people like me that are more kind of more midstream. In fact, I think the last I read, prior to this election, it was about a year ago, 2 years ago now. I don't know. It basically said that 70% of America now decided they were middle of the road and they weren't liberal or conservative. And I think that's just based on bad politics. Everyone hated both sides at this point. Um, but who knows? Maybe some kid will say, oh, well, AI can tell us what to set up our governmental structure to be. And it's like, no, it can't. It can only use the data we already gave it, and it's corrupt data. So,
it's
yeah.
funny. It's funny you say that because Imad most uh, must be. I can't say his name. He's out in UK. He was the CEO of Stable Diffusion.
Oh, sure.
Or he's actually trying to build a governmental model based off of AI that works off of that. So I'm interested to see what he comes out with for a governmental model. Like he's building it more on the um, a benefit structure. So as you benefit humanity, the more you. So it's I think taking the Star Trek approach, right? As you benefit humanity, the more your recognition grows, the more your achievements, the more wealth or whatever you have. Um,
Yeah, there's good
I'm
and
interested
bad.
to see.
There's good and bad with that, because AI is black and white. It's either on or it's off. It's either programmed or it's not. Um, the problem is that we're when you start losing all the nuances the government demands. Now, granted, sometimes politicians just kill the nuances themselves too. Okay, no doubt. But if you're actually a government for the people, how you're helping community, as you said, um, it requires a lot of nuances. A lot of nuances. AI can't do nuances because it's not human. So all it can do is build structure. Now, what happens then is that what happens when culture changes? Suddenly, AI says you're wrong. Our culture, we had this thing a handful of years back, maybe in 22, where this big push to help out minorities just went way over the top in America. That
Yeah.
was during the time of the Black Lives Matter and all kinds of different programs. And everyone said, oh, okay, let's take all these funds and put them over here now instead of over here. And there was no regard for how many people were going to be hurt by transferring things. There was only regard to help people that had the media's attention.
Yeah.
And granted, all people need help. And the goal in Star Trek was that everyone is equal. Everyone has a certain level of, food was free back then, in the future.
In future.
Back then, I'm thinking Star Trek. I've seen almost all the
Yep.
shows. So
I do think we are going to get there, because we do already have the base technologies for most of the Starship. The only things we're really missing are the propulsion drive and the warp capability. But we've got 3D printers that can print food. We've got hollow vision technology now we're just developing. We've got we're going to space on a regular basis now.
Yeah, but guess what we're missing the most? We're
humanity.
missing the high level of humanity. When AI first started coming out, the reason a lot of people were excited was because at the time, our country at least, I don't know how Canada was, but our country had a very strong moral position. And as a result, AI was going to be a tool to maintain the health and welfare of people. Well, then our country took a deep dive the wrong direction. And suddenly we said, we can't teach morals in the schools anymore. That has to be done at home. We created all these new laws that basically said that we're now okay with, well, we even had that time where people were against the police. We don't want police. We don't need police. Well,
defund the police. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we went into some level of chaos at that point. And when you have that going on, now you're going to build AI without a moral compass. AI has been the number one tool that scammers use now, and they have been making billions of dollars off of people that are ignorant. In fact, we were talking about AI knows, and I know I didn't finish answering your question about that because we got off on one of the wonderful rabbit trails we go on to. But in raising the funds, we were hit by scammers. We had 12 scammers hit us, and they actually literally impacted the fundraising to the point where the company had to zero out all the dollars that were donated. So we didn't make a dime toward our project. So it did not get funded. And as a result, it's like, okay, now what? All because scammers figured out how to use AI. So without a code that all people can say, this code helps communities. But again, my point was, we shifted to focus all on minorities, and we did everything for 2 or 3% of the population. And 99%, 98, 97% of the population suddenly said, well, what about us? And it's like, well, okay, does it have to be either or? How can we figure out how to do this where everybody is taken care of? And that's a tough thing. So, we might be able to put a starship up in the sky and have it go zipping around. But until you have some kind of a code that everyone chooses to live by for the sake of humanity, for the sake of the planet being united, it's not going to be a pretty sight.
So, aliens, if you're listening, please come invade us. That will be definitely a unifying factor, but hopefully never a thing. I actually I kind of believe that it's like the Federation of Planets. Like they don't interact with you until you're to a certain technology and to a certain level of humanity where you're actually striving for
Yeah.
good, as opposed to. I'm hoping for that, anyways.
Yeah.
So just closing thoughts. Where can people reach you, and what's next on the docket for you?
Well, timing wise, I have to still figure out how to shoot AI nose at this point. I might just say, okay, I guess it's going to be an AI film instead of putting together the team that I want to make it, because the story is still one that has to be told.
Yeah.
Uh, I also have a book series that I'm starting to launch called Danny's World. It's about a teenage girl, age 17, who's going through all the normal things that girls go through. It's co-written by my co-writer Cheryl, and the story is such where each book is designed to really go through things. So in the first book, she wants to be a journalist, and the newspaper that her family owns is going out of business because who reads newspapers anymore? You know that story.
Yeah.
And she's introduced to live streaming. Well, in the meantime, she stumbles upon the fact that the mayor is using school funds to embezzle over $2 million from the people of the community. And she figures that out, and he finds out she's figuring it out. So he's sending the cops after her and everything else. And she's doing a live streaming broadcast, jumping around at different points in town, trying to get him to confess to what he's doing before she gets arrested. So it's quite an exciting thing. And the second book is more about AI, believe it or not. Yes, she experiences AI stuff in the second book. So it's a very contemporary, coming of age type story. Then I have a whole slew of things on the shelf. I have to figure out which I'm going to pick off next and go to next. But hopefully, we've run into a couple of problems with the story. If those cleared up in time, that book will be out somewhere around the middle of September or late September. And again, that's Danny's World. So it's a fun little thing.
Awesome.
Oh, you asked me where people can get a hold of me as well. My main blog is probably the best place for people to go right now, and that's cjpowersonline.com. So the word CJ Powers is one word. Online is still part of that same one word, and then .com.
And I'll make sure everything's in the link below. Actually, I think this episode will air about mid-September, so might even link your book in the description below if it's out. Thank you very much for your time. It was a great conversation. Stay.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and I'm always called weird too. So we got